Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. It is episode 13 of the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast. I am, of course, the self-crowned and proclaimed prince of pop culture, Xander Invictus, joined by my ward liege and co-host Big Bach. How are you, sir?
Doing great. You doing okay, too?
I'm doing fantastic. And as of we are recording this, it is Mother's Day, so belated Happy Mother's Day to every mom out there. And of course, I called mine today, so
I talked to mine, too.
there we go. So today, for the Dropkicks episode, it is pay-per-view day. And as you know on the show, we give pay-per-views their own episode because of the length and matches and everything that goes on. So this is the first WCW pay-per-view we've done. It is SuperBrawl 3.
And I am very much looking forward to talking about this. This had some insane matches.
Yeah, there was one that I actually was severely bored in, and we'll get to that one. But overall, this was actually a good pay-per-view. SuperBrawl 3 was on Sunday, February 21st, 1993, emanated from Asheville, North Carolina, which is heart of Jim Crockett Promotions Company, which is what WCW came from. So this is their people. The opening hype pad, we opened right away. Hype package before the pay-per-view is showing the White Castle of Fear strap match. We're hyping that match up. It's going to be our main event of the evening. And we are opening with...
multiple occasions of Vader getting whipped with the strap.
Yes. And we're also we're not going to mention it throughout the show, but throughout the show, they're going to show tiny clips of the mini movie we spoke about a few weeks ago. They show the whole thing, but it's basically clipped in between every match.
Right.
Like, this is the match of the show. Mm-hmm. So we are joined by Eric Bischoff and Missy Hyatt. And we have news already that Ron Simmons injured his shoulder and is out of his U.S. title match against Dustin Rhodes. And Max Payne is in. His lawyers and his people spoke with the higher up at WCW, and he is getting the U.S. title shot tonight. And then they are joined by Snazzy Sparkly Sailor, Johnny B. Bad. I honestly want to know if Mark Miro actually still has some of these costumes, because they are fantabulous.
Yeah, that was a good costume he was wearing.
Very sparkly. Mm-hmm. They're basically you're going to see them throw. They're going to throw to the trio all night, kind of help all the matches and everything that's happening. Mm.
And Missy also says she'll have the coup of the evening.
Yeah, and she actually will here later on. Then we throw it to our announce team of the evening, Tony Schiavone on play-by-play, and color by WWF Hall of Famer, former mayor, former governor, former Navy SEAL. He's also been in many movies, Jesse the Body Ventura.
And I have to say, I really liked how these guys did together.
Oh yeah, they had great chemistry, with Tony doing play-by-play, Jesse doing color, because they always say the best people to have color commentary is former pro wrestlers, which Jesse Ventura was a pro wrestler for several years. Mm-hmm. So they mentioned, of course, they talk about Max Payne, who's going to be the replacement in the U.S. title match tonight, and he said he's going to bring out Norma Jean, which he does, and we go to Max Payne, who's out off to the side on his own, and we find out that Norma Jean is
an electric guitar.
His electric guitar, and he actually plays the national anthem on it.
He did a pretty good job too.
Yeah, it was a good way to start, good way to hype everybody up, introduce everything that's going to happen tonight. And speaking of happening tonight, we go into our first match. It is Flying Brian Pillman and Stunning Steve Austin against Eric Watts and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Mm-hmm. This is the pay-per-view debut of Pillman and Austin as a duo. They come out in matching trunks. Austin is doing the little camera hand motion thing because they're basically now the Hollywood Blondes in all but name.
Gotcha.
They would end up becoming the Hollywood Blondes, which weren't around very long. They could have been around a lot longer, but here's the thing. If they weren't around very long, we wouldn't have got Stone Cold Steve Austin in about 3 years.
Right.
So it's a weird thing that's like, we wish we had had them longer, many years, because they were a great tag team. But at the same time, would we have gotten Stone Cold? Would if anything else had happened?
Right. Benefit of hindsight.
Benefit of hindsight, you're like, it's just everything. I'm a very big fate and karma thing. It's like, well, everything was supposed to happen this way, so.
Right.
We didn't get the Hollywood Blondes very long, but if we would we have gotten Stone Cold?
I gotcha.
So, and then they're like I said, they're going up against Eric Watts and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. And Bagwell and Austin do start. Bagwell does have the slight advantage because we're going with the speed. Bagwell does have the speed, but Austin has more of the technical aspect. He's more technically sound than Bagwell. Bagwell does have the speed and the youth behind him.
Yeah, they're doing tie-ups, trying to size each other up. Austin plays to the corner, trying to keep Bagwell off of him.
A little back and forth. Like I said, this is we're going to feel each other out, get everything going, warm up the crowd a little bit. And Eric Watts gets the tag for the first time, and the crowd boos him hard.
Yeah, as this match went on, I could see Eric was being carried, as you mentioned in his last match, but I don't think it was as bad as before. Like, he has improved.
Sure, enough, but you have to realize that he was pushed on because his dad was Cowboy Bill Watts, and he was pushed into this position, like, right off the bat.
Right.
You can tell he wasn't ready for it. It's the whole wrestling nepotism stereotype that goes on.
Gotcha.
And you can tell that the crowd is already soured on him already. I don't think he hasn't been too awful long on TV. The crowd is already soured on him. So every time he got tagged into this match, he got booed. Mm-hmm. Because he might have had a little bit of improvement, but nowhere near. And then when you're in there with guys like Pillman, Austin, and even Bagwell.
Yeah, he improved, but he still wasn't ready.
Oh, not even close. But Austin gets double backdropped. And then Pillman double clotheslines him. Mm-hmm. So the good guys are even, excuse me, or have the early advantage. Pillman and Watts are now legal, but Watts hits an awful drop kick that I don't even think gets to Pillman's waist.
Yeah, that was not good.
Mine were that bad, but I was also in training. I had an awful, well, the front drop kick was surprisingly better, but the side drop kick like that, mine was probably a little bit worse than that.
Right.
But once again, I was training and not on TV with a major promotion either.
Right.
So.
After that, Bagwell is tagged back in. They do that tag team arm slam we like.
Yeah. And I noticed, especially with this match and then throughout the whole show, and you mentioned this at the start, that Tony and Jesse Ventura had amazing chemistry, great rapport. They were able to mix together a good amount of being able to call the match and keep the story going, and then just barbs against each other the whole show. There was it was a great combination.
Yeah, they knew when it was appropriate to take shots at each other without detracting from the match.
Exactly. But yeah, Watts is able to lock in an abdominal stretch on Austin. Actually looked pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then he tags in Bagwell, gets a hold of Austin, and locks in his own abdominal stretch.
Yeah, Austin's able to throw Bagwell over his shoulder at this point, and he gets to Pillman and tags him in.
Yeah, and then they take over on Bagwell for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But he answers, he clotheslines Pillman. Watts gets back in there, takes control of Austin, and he locks in a awful Boston Crab.
Yeah, that did not look good whatsoever.
No. But however, and I will get, I'm one of those where I will give credit where credit's due. Pillman gets in, and Watts actually has this really nice counter into the STF, where Pillman goes to kick him, he grabs the foot, and is able to kind of like spin it a little bit to where he kind of flips his leg on over Pillman's and kind of spins and turns him over, locks in the STF. Mm-hmm. It was a nice counter. I was like, oh, okay, this was nice.
Yeah, that was a good sequence. Yeah, Pillman is able to get to the ropes to break that, though.
Sure. But like I said, we do try to give credit where credit's due, whether someone's good or bad.
Right.
We do want to call out someone that we may not be necessarily a big fan of. We'll still call out when they have something cool. Mm-hmm. That was a cool counter. I was like, okay, that is actually pretty snazzy. Mm-hmm. Pillman suckers Watts in, shoots him in the gut, tosses him outside, but he misses a double axe handle, but the Hollywood Blondes are still in control.
Mm-hmm. Pillman bouncing off of the guardrails at this point. Looked painful.
Austin's able to get a sunset flip, but Watts gives the classic counter of punching him right in the mouth. He gets a close 2 count on a pin of his own on his own sunset flip, but Pillman breaks it up. And the heels look like they're going for some sort of double team splash. Watts gets his knees up, but Austin is able to stop the near hot tag. He gets the control a little bit longer. Watts finally gets tagged into Bagwell, and the crowd goes absolutely insane for Bagwell, which he was very popular at the time. Like I said, he was maybe in WCW. This was probably within his first year and a half, and he'd only been wrestling about 3 years in total, I think.
Mm-hmm. He's very good for being that green.
Oh, yeah, he's still super early in his career. But he goes in, crowd erupts, he gets that hot tag, he goes for the comeback, able to hit his fisherman suplex, but Austin comes in, comes off the top rope with an elbow, and Pillman is actually able to get the pin and the win.
Yeah, that's a match time of 16 minutes, 35 seconds. I think that was a good opening match.
Yeah, it was a good opening match. I mean, there was nothing too obviously bad. You could just tell that three of the men were well versed in what they were doing, and there was, even with Eric Watts, like I said, we're not to say offended of his work at this time, but I will give him credit for that STF counter. I thought was great.
Yes.
But it was a good starter. The crowd was hot for it, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
We're going back to Eric and Johnny B. Bad. Ric Flair is here. Remember, Ric Flair was just in Raw, oh goodness, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, they've been teasing this on their 900 number hotline. And for our younger viewers who might not know what that is, those are numbers you would, if you had postpaid phone service, like the old contracts, you'd call a number like that, and they'd bill it to your phone bill per minute.
Well, they were also the big things I would know, besides like wrestling hotlines, is these were used for adult numbers.
Yes.
You would call these, and ladies would be on the other line, and they would
Sexy talk.
Yeah, sexy talk. But they kept saying Ric Flair's going to be here. Ric Flair's going to be here. This is North Carolina. You know, Ric Flair lives in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
He's, big part of the whole Jim Crockett Promotions back then. So if you want to get the crowd hot, because there were signs all over the place. And they were chanting for Flair throughout the show until he shows up.
Yes.
But Missy's backstage, and she's trying to get him here because the limo pulls up, and out comes Ric Flair with a security entourage. And before he comes out, they lead Missy away. Ric Flair comes out, crowd goes nuts, and he walks off. We'll see him later on in the evening.
Yes.
All right, so the next match coming up is what I would consider they had somewhat of a micro feud or a small rivalry, was Chris Benoit versus Too Cold Scorpio. These guys have been on TV going to time limit draws for the last few matches they've had, so they're giving them 20 minutes. Most of these matches get 20 minutes, so we're going to see how close they get if they get to another time limit draw.
Yes.
Benoit gets the early control, headbutt, suplex, the stuff that he's known for, the smash mouth, hard-hitting stuff he's known for.
Yeah, like he hits a snap suplex with some nasty chops.
Oh, that was, like everybody that knows Benoit knows he had the chops for chops, we'll put it that way.
Yes.
But Scorpio uses the agility that he's known for. He got a bunch of lightning quick blows. He gets his own control. And then they get into some stuff that I love. They busted out the chain wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And Scorpio locked in. After the chain wrestling, Scorpio was able to lock in what seemed like a type of Indian deathlock on Benoit's arm.
That looked like to me like holding a hammerlock with his feet.
Yeah, it's sort of like a hammerlock style, like a modified hammerlock or some sort of Indian deathlock. It was cool.
Gotcha.
And Benoit ended up escaping, powdering out, trying to get some space. And they go to that bridge spot that we saw in episode 1, where the one person's on the mat bridging and the other one tries to get on them to try to drive their knees down, and they just hold them pure core strength. Hold the full weight of the person while they're still in the bridge. Yeah. But can we talk, once again, we keep harping on it, but we need to still talk about Scorpio's agility. It's insane. Yeah. The stuff he was able to do in this match is just absolutely bananas.
Yeah, in that bridge segment, Scorpio forces Benoit down, Benoit forces Scorpio down, but then he jumps on him. Ouch.
Yeah, it looked awful. And then Benoit was able to land a backbreaker and then just kind of bend him over the knee as we've seen that as a submission. Mm-hmm. So we get back into that. Scorpio's able to get back to that. Scorpio's able to get out of it, get control, but he misses a top rope drop kick. And Benoit locks in an elevated crab, which is very similar to what a Chris Jericho would use as the Lion Tamer when he was in WCW.
I have seen him use that, actually. He used it at least once when I was paying attention to WWF.
Yeah, like he would do... The reason the Lion Tamer is a little bit different from the Walls of Jericho, because there was a lot... He faced mainly a lot of like the cruiserweights and smaller guys in WCW, so he was able to do the elevated crab more. Mm-hmm. But with the larger gentlemen, you're not able to do that as much, so he transitioned to more like a more traditional Boston crab.
Gotcha.
So there is a little bit of difference between a Lion Tamer and a Walls of Jericho. And this would have been more of the Lion Tamer.
Gotcha.
Benoit is still just raining down on Scorpio, lands a huge top rope back suplex. Benoit goes for a second one on the ground, but Scorpio's able to shift his weight and get a 2 count on Benoit, who answers with a nice stiff powerbomb.
Yeah, that was a nasty one.
Yeah. He goes for a second powerbomb, but Scorpio does his really awesome counter, but unfortunately lands in the ropes, but it was a really cool counter. Benoit dodges 2 spin kicks, but Scorpio, instead of going for the third one, just meets him with a clothesline. Just pop. Scorpio lands that Twisted Bliss style splash, but Benoit kicks out. Benoit's able to land a quick second rope leg drop. We are less than a minute away. They're starting to count down by the seconds. Scorpio gets another small package for 2. Benoit goes for the dragon suplex. Scorpio rolls him up. He gets the 3 count and the win. And the announcer calls it he got the pin at 19 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah, that could not have been closer.
No, that was props on them because it takes a lot to be able to time out a match like that. To be able to get it at 19:59. Like, I don't know. Once again, we talked about this in the 10-minute match from the last episode. How much of that was, if that was an exact 19:59, well done on the timing.
It was close. I timed it at 18:23.
Okay. But still, I'm sure, like I said, dramatic effect.
Yes.
But still, great match. This is actually, at this point, this is already my favorite match of the night so far. We'll see if it still is by the end of the night.
Yes.
Eric Bischoff is back. We're promoting the 900 line we just talked about, where you used to be able to do it at the time where you could actually, special pay-per-views, you could talk to wrestlers about stuff. And they were showing that Dustin Rhodes is back there talking about his upcoming match. And he's talking about more. We're still promoting Max Payne in his U.S. title match. And we come in to our third match of the evening with a debut. The debut of the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, who had left the WWF in the fall. He had dropped the Intercontinental title to Shawn Michaels at what was at the time the last Saturday night's main event in October of '92. So this is his WCW debut up against Wild Bill Irwin. And obviously, anybody that knows Davey Boy Smith, especially back in his days, he had the strength advantage.
Yeah, he looked absolutely built.
Oh, he was. Like, this was prime British Bulldog. Like, I was a big fan of this guy. But here's the thing. There's a thing I noticed that sometimes where they can explain, like, where the rules don't make sense for in one match, but they do in another because the way it's talked about.
Right.
Okay. So, one of the rules that Bill Watts had at the time for WCW is you get tossed over the top rope. Whoever throws you over the top rope, they get disqualified.
Right. We've had the announcers talk about that a few times as we've done this.
Okay, so you throw the guy over the top rope, it's a disqualification. Bulldog obviously clotheslines Bill Irwin over the top rope.
Yeah, and Jesse Ventura actually points out that should be a DQ because the ref definitely saw it.
Yeah, because it was right in front of the ref. It wasn't like, I clotheslined him, he stumbled and fell over. No, he clotheslined him over. Tony tries to cover it up. Good on Tony Schiavone. Like, he's fantastic play-by-play. And he's actually better in AEW. But he's like, because of the throwing, it was because it wasn't the clothesline because there was momentum involved. And I'm like, whether you throw a guy or you clothesline a guy or whatever the top rope, it all involves momentum. There's physics involved no matter what.
Right.
So the momentum point is moot because no matter how I throw you over the top rope, you're still going over via momentum.
Right.
So that makes no sense.
Agreed. That was a little silly.
You do see this a lot in WCW for the remainder of their existence, where it's like, I'm going to get DQ'd in one match because of this, but the next match somebody's going to do the exact same thing or something different, similar, but they don't get DQ'd for what would have been the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't ruin the match. It's just I noticed it.
Yeah. You've got a good eye for those kind of details.
Yeah, that, and I've also, not only from the training, I've been watching wrestling for damn near 35 or more out of my near 40 years of existence.
Right.
Davey Boy Smith gets him up in a press slam, and there was a nice funny spot where Irwin starts backing up. After the press slam, Irwin gets up, he starts backing up and falls through the ropes. I thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a cute little comedy spot, break up the monotony a little bit. Like, it wasn't a monotonous match. It was just, get that little funny spot every once in a while that helps the match. Irwin does take control. He finally does get a little bit of advantage. It's not a full squash.
Yeah.
We know who's going to win this. Smith comes back, hits a very nice delayed vertical suplex. Once again, he's a very powerful guy.
Yeah.
Irwin goes to jump at him. He catches. Bill Irwin hits his running power slam that he was famous for. Match is over.
Yeah, that's 5 minutes, 50 seconds. I believe that's the shortest match of the night.
The shortest match of the night and the only match less than 10 minutes.
Was a good cool-off match, though, after how intense that first one was.
Yeah, it was. The first two matches were great. This one was actually still a good match. I enjoyed this one. We knew going in, this is the debut. We knew who was going to win this.
Yeah, you're not going to have someone lose on their debut.
Not always. Sometimes it makes sense, but more, especially when a guy like the British Bulldog comes over, who is a relatively high mid-card in WWF, so when he's coming over to take a higher spot on the roster of WCW, you're not going to have him lose to a guy like Bill Irwin, who was not a bad wrestler in his own right, who was very successful.
Right.
But we knew what Bill Irwin's spot was in the match.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a great job. Because they always tell us, one of the best thing that you can do, which is why you see a lot of guys that are like, oh, well, this guy loses every time, and it's the same guy loses every time. Because he knows how to make someone look good.
Right.
Because if you can, you're just as valuable to a roster, for the most part. And this goes mainly for, like, your televised shows.
Mm-hmm.
If you can lose most of your matches and make the other guys still look good,
you're
very valuable. You're extremely valuable.
Gotcha.
Which is when you saw a guy like the Brooklyn Brawler on TV or like a Barry Horowitz, there's a reason you saw those guys on TV all the time. They made whoever they were across the ring from look good.
Mm-hmm.
Because taking a move is both people, not just the person giving it.
Yes.
Because let's say you're giving me a power bomb. That's especially whether it's a trademark or finisher. One of your big moves is a power bomb, right?
Right.
And I go dead weight or I take forever to help get lifted up, and your power bomb looks like shit.
Yeah, that makes you both look bad.
Yeah, it makes me look bad for digging my heels in, but it also makes you look bad. It's like, can you even not? How can I believe this guy is feared for his power bomb when he can't even power bomb this dude?
Right, because you had to struggle.
Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of the guys, especially when we're still here in the age of enhancement matches, that we don't get them near as much as we do now. But we're still in that age where a lot of your televised shows have a lot of enhancement matches. When you see a lot of the same guys every week or every 2 weeks or whatever for every taping, that's why.
Gotcha.
Because we know if we're going to send in Joe somebody out there against, we'll say
Cactus Jack?
Cactus Jack. I exactly was going to say Cactus Jack because he's in our next match.
Mm-hmm.
With Cactus Jack, we know Joe somebody can have a good match with Cactus Jack. Even if it's a 2-minute match, he's going to make Cactus Jack look good for those 2 minutes.
Right.
And then we'll bring him in again, and he's going to fight Sting. Sting may beat him in 1 minute and 40 seconds, but Sting looks good for that 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Right.
That's why those enhancement talents that everybody looks down on,
that's what they're for.
That's what they're for. They knew their spot, and that's why.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. There's people that made their careers, television careers, off being that person. And some of them went on to be higher on the roster, like we saw in Raw. We've seen both guys that would end up becoming the Headbangers as enhancement talent.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Dwayne Gill, who would go on to become Gilbert, which it was a short-lived gimmick, but it's very popular. It's what he's known for now.
Right.
We're going to see a guy here in a few weeks on Saturday night called Bruno Mastino, who loses to Sting quickly, goes on to become Kane.
Oh!
The Undertaker's first match in his career was a squash match against Bruiser Brody, who, if you know anything about Bruiser Brody, woo! By the way, massive fan, by the way.
Gotcha.
Woo! That's what I'm saying. Everybody starts out like that. Like a lot of you guys that you see on TV that are huge. The ones that had the time in the indies. Or even a lot of the guys that spent a lot of time at NXT. Like, perfect example. I'm going to get off my soapbox here in a minute, but
okay.
would try to want to elaborate how useful enhancement talent and enhancement matches like this are. One of the top heels in WWE right now, especially on SmackDown, is Baron Corbin.
Right.
You would consider him maybe, especially on SmackDown, he's probably like the number 2 or number 3 heel right now. Very high on the roster. If you watch a lot of early NXT, he's losing in like 2 minutes. Because if you can show your worth, and you can, especially with guys like that, if you can show your worth, show you can do what you can do, eventually you're going to move up a little bit more. Like, guys, like I said, the guys like Baron Corbin, who's like, what, you would say number 2, number 3 heel in SmackDown right now?
Agreed.
Started out being the guy that lost in 2 minutes to a guy.
And I think his roster fortune changed when he won the Honor to the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I think that was 2016, or was that?
Sure, but the thing was, he was still winning a decent amount of matches on NXT at that time.
Right.
But when he first started on NXT, he was that guy that was losing in like 3 minutes.
Okay.
So he started out as the guy he showed that, hey, I can make people look good. Okay, you know what you're doing. You can work well with other people. We're going to give you a little bit more, and then a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal a handful of years ago. Now, like we said, he's what you would say, like we said, what, 2 or 3 heel on SmackDown?
Yes.
See, these guys are more valuable than just, oh, he's just a jobber, which I hate that word, by the way. He's just gonna go, it's like, yeah, because that's what he's paid to do, and if he's good, he's gonna make the other guy look even better.
Right.
So, all right, soapbox. I'm gonna push soapbox out of the way. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. So, we're showing more clips of the mini movie like we told you about, and then Tony's back there. He's doing a ringside interview with British Bulldog, and he's calling out Vader. He's like, I came here for the titles. It doesn't matter who the champ is, but Vader, I'm gunning for you. And I think a power for power, Vader versus Davey Boy Smith will be very nice to see the Hoss fight.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Or like how Big E like to put it, big meaty men slapping meat. Because they do end up getting into matches before, but this is a very big meaty men slapping meat type match.
Right.
Because you can see how strong British Bulldog is.
Yes, I was impressed with that match.
And he can do stuff like that to larger men. So, but anyways, so we go backstage. There's more Johnny B. Bad and Missy banter before Eric is backstage interviewing Paul Orndorff for his match.
And they are very quickly interrupted by Cactus Jack with a stoop shovel. Orndorff flees into the ringside area, and the bell rings to start their Falls Count Anywhere match.
Yep, Paul doesn't even have time to chase Jack down, or take his robe off because Jack's chasing down the ramp. And here's the thing. Here's another thing I caught from the referee. This is we are having a Falls Count Anywhere match, which means you can pin them anywhere, which usually means this is some sort of no rules, no holds barred, hardcore style match where I can do what I want because it's basically a street fight.
Right.
But you can pin them anywhere in the arena. They said anywhere in the arena. So basically the rules are out the window, right?
Right.
Okay. So Jack comes into the ring with the shovel. Why does the ref take the shovel away?
Good question. I have no idea.
I don't know if you picked up on that. I was like, hey, if we're not supposed to have any rules in a Falls Count Anywhere match, why isn't the ref allowing Cactus Jack to have the shovel?
Yeah.
Makes no sense. So anyways, while this is going on, Paul capitalizes on the whole confusion and just kicks Jack in the face and smacks him on the
barricades.
The barricade. He gets more headbutts in. Jack starts dropping some headbutts, peeling back the ringside mats. He body slams and elbow drops Paul on the concrete for a 2 count.
And then he does a sunset flip cover from the second turnbuckle and lands flat on his back. Ouch.
Like, you heard the smack that I'm watching this, and I actually went, Jesus!
Yeah, I cringed.
Because all you heard was just solid smack, and that smack was all Mick Foley hitting the concrete.
Yeah, that looked so painful.
Like, I was like, Jesus! Out loud for nobody. And I also noticed that, they had the crutch legs, like, here, use my crutch.
Oh, is that what that guy was doing? So I saw that guy waving the crutch throughout the whole show. Yeah,
because some of those are plans like, hey, I'm going to take this chair from this dude because I know this guy's supposed to hand me the chair.
Right.
They're not always plans. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. I went to, while it was still a thing, because Dragon Gate is a Japanese promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a promotion in Japan called Dragon Gate.
I've heard of it, don't know anything about it.
Okay. There for a while, especially when Evolve was a thing back, and I want to say I was in New York, so you're talking 2011, 2012. They had Dragon Gate USA, which was a lot of the Dragon Gate wrestlers and some of the American wrestlers in the indies. They would have shows. It was a promotion, but it was like a lot of the Dragon Gate wrestlers would come over.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a lot of the guys nowadays. I would see guys like Johnny Gargano was there, Ricochet, Pac, and then New Japan would know guys like Shingo was there. I gotta watch Shingo, but stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the main event was a street fight where there was a team of AR Fox, Sabu. So I actually got to see Sabu in a hardcore match, and Jonathan Davis against a team known as the DUF, which stood for Dirty Ugly Fucks. That was the name of the stable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Pinky Sanchez, who I'm a big fan of, Eric Cannon, and Sami Callihan, who actually just came back to Impact last night.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had a belt on. I was wearing jeans. I had a belt on, but my jeans were too baggy, so I'm basically belt. I pull off my belt, and I hand it to Sami Callihan. He's like, yeah, whip the guy, choke him with it. He grabs my belt, and then starts choking AR Fox out with my belt, so I have to hold my pants up the rest of the night so they don't fall down.
Oh, that's a great story, man.
And then he just drops the belt, and I can't just go into the, they're having this huge street fight that with beer bottles and tables and blood.
Yeah, you can't exactly hop the barricade to get your belt back.
No, so after the show's over, while, everything's going on, I'm walking around ringside moving broken tables and trying to step around blood just to find my belt, because my belt's in the middle of all this carnage. So when they grab stuff like that, like signs or beer cups or chairs or whatever, that's not always a plan.
Yeah, sometimes it's actually happening.
Yeah, like I said, with me, I had to go through bloody tables to find my belt so I could go home.
Right.
I just noticed, that just reminded me of that story when I saw here's my crutch. Mm-hmm. Anyways, once again, apparently this episode's full of tangents.
So yeah, at this point, we actually get the reaction in the ring for the first time in the match, and Paul is firmly in control here.
Oh yeah, and then of course it doesn't spend too long in the ring.
Nope.
We're back out in the ring. Cactus Jack is out there. Paul pulls him down the aisle and tosses him over about 2 or 3 safety rails.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see that Jack is smiling like he's feeding off the pain. Like, the more you hurt him, it's like the Red Hulk.
Yeah.
The more he gets angry, the more powerful he is. So it seems like the more you hurt Cactus Jack, the worse off it is to fight him.
Right.
And then it was just, I saw another nut spot with Cactus Jack doing, he threw his body out there. Orndorff suplexes him, bends his spine over the guardrail.
I saw that.
It reminded me of that Simpsons episode where Homer was the chiropractor and he would just push the guys over the garbage can.
I don't remember that one.
It was it was when Simpsons was must-watch TV. Homer had a garbage can, pushed with people over. Oh, my back hurts. Push them over this garbage can. It would fix their back. I'm like, oh, my back feels better. So he was like a garage chiropractor with a garbage can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at this point, we note that, yeah, the announcers say Cactus Jack has a bad knee right now, and Orndorff is now attacking that bad knee.
Yeah, he starts pulling the brace off, smacking him with the brace, stomping on the knee. Paul looks like he's suplexing him over the top rope back to the floor, but Jack caught himself, but then Paul Orndorff just chokes him with the brace.
Yeah. Then he locks in a figure 4 using the rope for leverage.
But the ref's trying to get him to break the hold while he's grabbing the ropes. I'm like, hey, it's falls count anywhere. There's no rules.
Right.
Like, I don't know if they spoke to the ref. I don't know. Like, the thing is with a good ref is they're invisible.
Right.
They always say the best refs are invisible. This guy a couple times was like, hey, I don't know what the discussion was backstage, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is a falls count anywhere with very lax rules like this,
why would you rope break?
It's like the quote from Godzilla, let them fight. But, so Paul keeps driving. They're out on the outside again. Cactus Jack keeps getting his knee driven into the exposed concrete.
Mm-hmm.
He gets on the apron. Paul hits him with the knee brace that he pulled off, and he flat back bumps onto the exposed concrete.
Yeah. Ow.
Yeah, this is what he used to do. This is what got him famous. Wait till you see his death matches in Japan. It's even worse.
Oh, God.
So Paul grabs a chair. They're back in the ring again. Paul Orndorff grabs a chair. He keeps working on the knee, smacking the knee, and he drops the chair in the ring. He's going to motion for the pile driver. He's going to pile drive Cactus onto the chair.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, he's taking too long with the, I'm going to pile drive him. I'm going to get him. Arr.
Yep.
You can see it coming. He's taking way too much time celebrating, taunting people to, I'm going to pile drive Cactus Jack. Because he turns around, Cactus Jack cracks him in the face with a shovel, and Cactus Jack gets the pin.
12 minutes, 19 seconds for a very good match.
Very good and very dense. A lot happened.
Yeah.
But this was what I liked. I really like this match. Because sometimes not every match needs to be the whole scientific I chain wrestle, you chain wrestle. Sometimes, especially with the guys like Cactus Jack and even Paul Orndorff, especially with storylines, just let them go.
Yeah, sometimes a brawl is all you need.
Yeah, and this was a perfect time where it's like, hey, the brawl makes sense for them to have this.
Right, because of the way their feud has been building.
Yeah, and it was great. So we're back with Eric, Missy, and Johnny. They're just there to promote the matches. They're kind of like a little break in between the matches to get everything set up again.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into our final tag team match of the evening, which is the Rock and Roll Express, which was supposed to be versus the Wrecking Crew, but the last minute they supposedly WCW and Smoky Mountain had a deal that the Wrecking Crew were replaced with the Heavenly Bodies, with Jim Cornette, which was Tom Pritchard, Stan Lane, and Bobby Eaton.
Mm. Registered as a corporation so they could defend under what we now know as the Freebird rule.
Yeah, which for those that don't know, the Fabulous Freebirds were a trio back in the day, especially around in the World Class Championship Wrestling, like in the Texas area. And they were, there was three of them. There was Michael Hayes, Buddy Roberts, and Terry Gordy. There was three of them. They all did their own thing. But they had a tag, they would win tag titles, so they had a Freebird rule they were allowed to use, and this is what it's... You saw Demolition use it, New Day used a more modern time frame, where even though, let's say, you got wrestler A, B, and C. Wrestler A and wrestler B win the tag titles in the trio.
Right.
But the Freebird rule says anybody between A, B, and C can defend the titles, and you're not going to know which two it is until the match starts.
Right.
Which is supposed to work in the champion's advantage because it's like, hey, you can maybe you can prep and strategize for one duo, but another duo pops up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the New Day in recent times, it was usually Big E and Kofi Kingston defending when they had the tag titles.
Yeah, but every once in a while they would throw Woods in there.
Right.
But yeah, that's what the Freebird rule is. Hey, there's a bunch of us, but you never know who was defending the titles until we get there.
Yes.
I like how Cornette's coming in. He's introducing the Heavenly Bodies, and with all their nicknames and everything. Only the way only Jim Cornette could do. And I noticed it was funny. Stan grabs the microphone, trying to say something. Like, nope, sorry, we got time. Let's go. We ain't got time. Like he's like, sorry, Stan. And then this is when the Rock and Roll Express comes out, who are once again Jim Crockett Promotions. You want to get a good face pop, bring out the Rock and Roll Express in the North Carolina area.
Right.
And then the refs decide to send Bobby Eaton to the outside. No, I'm sorry, out from ringside back to the back. Jim Cornette's obviously fighting it. It's like, hey, he's part of this team. He needs to be here. It's like, no, you're going to the back.
Yeah.
So we start the match. Rock and Roll Express obviously are early in control.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great funny tag spot causing the Heavenly Bodies to run into each other.
Yeah, that looked pretty painful.
Yeah, it was funny, but it was just basically the first couple of minutes, it was all rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Pritchard and Ricky Morton, Todd Pritchard and Ricky Morton are trading heavy shots. And Gibson tags in. They do a crisscross spot. Basically, the first 5-6 minutes of this is the Rock and Roll Express making the Heavy Balloon Bodies look stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a spot I liked. Stan Lane starts to rally, throws Ricky Morton to the near neutral corner, but Gibson gets over there and helps absorb the impact so Morton doesn't get hurt that bad.
Yeah, and then the Heavenly Bodies try to do the same thing, but the Rock and Roll says turn it on them. Like, you can tell these guys have wrestled each other a bunch of times. Like, there's good chemistry between these teams.
Everybody knows what everyone else can do. They know how to work it.
Yeah. Heavenly Bodies finally take over after Ricky Morton outside gets a sucker punch, and then Jim Cornette hits him with a racket shot. And I noticed that Tom Pritchard got some nice air on a knee drop.
Yeah, I saw that. That looked pretty painful.
And then Stan Lee comes in with a neck breaker. Ricky Morton's able to get a Desperation Sunset flip, but it's broken up after Cornette distracts the ref again. Stan Lee gets a nice power slam.
Mm-hmm.
They're both in there. They look like they're going to do some sort of double backdrop on Ricky Morton, but he grabs them both and DDTs them at the same time. Mm-hmm. And Robert Gibson gets the hot tag, and the crowd goes nuts because that was That was basically the formula of Rock and Roll Express. They would do a lot of their stuff, but then Ricky Morton was always the face in peril.
Gotcha.
And then once Robert Gibson got the tag, for that spot, for the hot tag, the crowd would go nuts. And they did. And they go for their finisher, which was the double drop kick, but the match finally breaks down. And Pritchard is able to hit Robert Gibson with the Bulldog for a 2 count. And then once again, this just broke down. This is just a pure 6 brawl, if you will. So Bobby Eaton comes in to hit Morton, but he moves. Bobby Eaton comes out the top rope, he moves, and hits Pritchard, and then Gibson comes in, gets the pin.
That was pretty dense again at 12 minutes, 53 seconds.
Here's the thing. Did I enjoy the match? Sure. Was it just okay? Yes. And this is why, to me, it was just okay. Like, I liked a lot of the stuff they did at the beginning, like the cool, we're doing the quick ins and out tags, the cool funny spots. Like, it was great. But then for the last few minutes, once the Heavenly Bodies took over, it seemed like it was just like boom, 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 boom.
Too dense.
It was too dense at the end. It was not as dense in the beginning and too dense at the end.
Gotcha.
And we're going to see this later on in a little bit, but this was nowhere near as bad as the other match.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my main problem with it. It was all right. I'd give this match maybe a C+.
Nothing wrong with average.
No, it was okay, but it was just...
underwhelming.
The denseness was not evenly spread out.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it wasn't a bad match, but like I said, it just...
Yeah.
This would probably be my second least favorite match of the night.
Mm-hmm.
But nowhere near as bad as the worst match.
Okay.
So we're going to go right into the U.S. title match, which is the natural Dustin Rhodes defending against Max Payne. Like we said at the top of the show, Dustin was supposed to defend against Ron Simmons, but he had a shoulder injury, so this is Max Payne taking over.
Mm-hmm. And this is a brawl as the match starts.
Oh yeah, Dustin Rhodes is not doing the feeling out thing. He's just going to go in straight for the fight. And there was a Payne tries to counter, but Dustin Rhodes does this nice, cool looking like spinning arm drag move that I had never seen before, because he kind of hooked at a little spin and then flipped over and hit the arm drag. It was cool.
Yeah.
Early focus on the arm.
Yeah, Dustin holding a wrist lock for a bit, throws that into an armbar for a pretty decent bit.
Yeah, and then they talked about this later on in the match about why Dustin Rhodes is going for the armbar, and they explained that Max Payne's finisher is the armbar. And there's always the thing about it this way. I looked at this as like a defensive wrestling spot. Let's say your finisher is the Fujiwara armbar like it was for Max Payne, right? If I'm going to focus on that arm, you're not going to be able to lock in and get enough pressure on that armbar if your arm is injured.
Right, I'm going to deny you your weapon.
Yeah, so I think that's what Dustin was trying to do here. He's like, hey, I know this guy has an armbar as a finisher, so I'm going to work on his arms to make it less effective.
Yes.
Jesse does point this out later on in the match, but this is like, I get it. Payne is able to finally get control with a nice back elbow out of the corner. He starts softening up the arm because, once again, wants to lock in the painkiller. He wants that U.S. title.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to get a full head of steam. Once again, arm. Basic psychology. We're going to work the part that I'm going to focus on with my finishing move.
Yes.
So Dustin's able to finally come back, hit a lariat, and Dustin locks in an abdominal stretch while they're going out there. Payne, hits the ref, tosses Dustin over the top rope, and there's a disqualification.
Payne pulled the ref into himself to dislodge Dustin.
Yeah, but then, once again, the whole top rope, it was almost like he got DQ'd twice.
Right.
So the match is over, and we got a time of
11 minutes, 27.
It wasn't bad. It was a basic match.
Nothing wrong with basic. Sometimes, I would say this is another good cooldown match.
Yeah, it was a good cooldown match, especially we got 2 matches that are both well over 20 minutes after this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of shenanigans after the match. Payne is able to land a shoulder breaker on the outside of the ring. Dustin starts fighting back. They go to start to fight in the ring again, but it's all broken up by the refs. And we go back to Eric, Missy, and Johnny. They're back to hype up Ric Flair. And then the announcer, Gary Michael Capetta, announces Ric Flair in the crowd. Once again, if we're in Flair country and you announce Ric Flair and he comes out,
big pop.
Crowd goes ape. And they do. Tony's down there ringside with Ric Flair, who does his usual Flair stuff. Mm-hmm. He says he's going to be sitting ringside for the NWA World Title match. He says he also wants to pay attention to the strap match. He's going to sit ringside for that. Spoiler alert, he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the NWA World Title match, and this is where I get into as my worst match of the night. The Great Muta, who I've spoken about in length. Don't need to go any further into this. This is your first real taste of the Great Muta.
Yes.
Versus Barry Windham. And the crowd is obviously they're chanting for Flair because Flair's sitting ringside. You can see him. He's actually at the announcer table with the headset on.
Yeah, he's on commentary for this match.
Yes. There's a very slow feeling out process before Muta lands one of those nice spin kicks he had. Tony's like, hey, Rick, are you going to go after the winner? Flair's like, hey, I got no promises. You know, I'm here. We'll see what's going to happen, but I'm not going to make any promises about what I'm going to do.
Yeah, he's playing coy about what his plans are.
Yeah. This is supposed to be a 60-minute time limit match. 10 minutes in and not a damn thing's happened. I was like 10 minutes in and I was like 10 minutes in, I was like, wait, what? This is nothing, literally nothing happened. And then Muta comes in with that great elbow drop he does where he kind of just stomps in and twists with it. Like, I love it. Mm-hmm. But basically, for a good, I want to say 5 minutes, he had Barry Windham in a headlock.
Yeah, I noticed how long those headlocks were being held.
And if you notice the crowd, they were absolutely dead. This was the quietest the crowd was the entire night.
Now that you've mentioned it, now I'm kind of realizing I didn't hear a lot of crowd noise during this match.
Yeah. Barry Windham was actually able to finally break that headlock with some punches. Muta rolls outside, but Windham lands a back suplex. Lands a couple knee drops for a 2 count. And then Barry Windham locks in a sleeper hold that was almost as long as the headlock. Like, he had that sleeper hold in for a long time. Barry Windham drops an elbow for a 2 count. Rear chin lock, we're still in a rest hold. Like, the majority of this match has been nothing but 3 rest holds. Like, I even wrote in my notes, I'm severely bored. I actually wrote severely bored.
This didn't bore me, but maybe it's just because my expectations are as low as they are, being having come to the wrestling fandom recently.
Sure, but when I'm just watching this and I'm just like, I know what these guys can do, and I'm sitting there watching this, I had to take a break. I paused it and walked away for a while because I'm like, headlock. Okay, oh shit, it's still the headlock. Oh, he broke it. Oh, we're back to the headlock. I was like, oh, crying out loud.
Right.
So Barry Windham looks like he's going for the pile driver, but Muta gets a backdrop. Windham looks to go for one of his finishers, the superplex. Muta fights him off and hits a flying chop from the top. Muta lands some sort of flying attack and a backbreaker. He goes for his finisher, the moonsault, but Muta moves. Muta counters the vertical suplex into a back suplex of his own. He hits a backbreaker, but Windham gets his knees up. He hits a lariat, his implant DDT. Thank God the match is over.
Yeah, that was 24 minutes and 10 seconds of just tedium.
Like, the last 3 minutes, everything happened in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I get, if you're trying to do a 60-minute match, you kind of want to have it paced out. Even if you know you're not going 60 minutes, I know, this is, whatever.
Right.
This was so timed poorly, where, like, literally everything happened in, like, the last 3 or 4 minutes. Worst match of the night. Easy. This is why I said the Rock and Roll Express match kind of did this, but to a lesser extent. Whereas it felt like everything was super dense in the last couple of minutes because that's when everything happened. But at least I was entered with the stuff that they did in the first 2/3 of the Rock and Roll Express match. I was still entertained.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I was bored out of my mind with this, which is not a good thing because, once again, great Muta, I can't speak highly enough of. Like I said, still wrestling to this day. Barry Windham's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. He's in the Hall of Fame with the 4 Horsemen. And I think he should be in the Hall of Fame as a solo wrestler as well.
Yeah, they're not all going to be classics. Sometimes you just have a dud.
Yeah, and this is what this is. It's like, they just didn't mesh. And you're going to have that even with guys that can go with anybody. You're still going to have matches where they just don't mesh.
Right.
And that's what this was. But, so everybody's celebrating the match again. The ref has the belt, but Ric Flair goes into the ring. He's like, you don't know if he's going to be a good guy or a bad guy yet.
Right.
Ric Flair's playing the cards very close to his chest. He goes in, he grabs the belt from the ref, he puts it around Barry Windham's waist. Barry Windham notices this, spins around, has a stare down with Flair. Flair kind of just smiles, rolls out of the ring. There's stare down, but we're obviously want to build towards Barry Windham and Ric Flair, which on paper is amazing.
Right.
We'll see where that goes, but that's great. That's it right there.
Yes.
So, once again, little bit of banter back and forth, and we get into the main event, which honestly I think between this and then the Chris Benoit 2 Cold Scorpio match, 1A and 1B for match of the night, for very different reasons.
I'm gonna agree with that. Vader and Sting tore the house down with this match.
Yeah, almost literally, because this was the Big Van Vader coming out with Harley Race. The title's not on the line because this is considered non-sanctioned. Again, Sting with the White Castle of Air strap match. So non-sanctioned means the ref's just there to ring the bells. No titles. This doesn't go on the official record. If anything happens, WCW is basically legally washing their hands of anything that happens during this match.
Yes.
Just fight. We don't care what happens. We're not liable for anything. No titles on the line. This doesn't count against your record. Go.
Yeah.
Because we know how deep the rivalry is between Vader and Sting. For those that don't know what a strap match is, basically we obviously we've been promoting a strap match. A leather strap's been put out in the television for the last few weeks. Basically, what it is you have a long, real leather strap, and we're gonna see that these guys get busted open. It's a long leather strap that's attached at either man's wrist. And the idea of the match is you need to touch all 4 corners consecutively to win. So you have to incapacitate your opponent to the point that not only do you have to touch all 4 corners, you basically have to carry them all the way. Because if they're not moving, you got to be able to reach all 4 corners. And if you, like, let's say you get 2 corners, but you're not able to get to the 3rd one because whatever reason, the ref negates that, and you have to start over and do all 4 again. You can't just do 2, save them till later. Like, you have to do all 4 consecutively.
The way the ref was counting, you had to do it with no interference from your opponent, too.
Exactly. Like, they can look like if they're going to try to pull on your strap to kind of stop you, but if you're still making effort to go, we're still going to count it. But once the ref realizes, okay, they've stopped for whatever counter or whatever reason, all right, you're back to 0.
Gotcha.
So the men are attached.
Yeah, Sting's left arm to Vader's left arm.
And they're just doing the whole tug-of-war.
Yep, Vader yanked Sting toward him a few times.
Twice. And then the 3rd time, he just lays into him with a stiff clothesline and elbow drop. Mm-hmm. And then he comes back off the top rope with a splash. Sting comes back, not crocheting, but crotching. I wrote crocheting for some reason in my notes.
Vader stepped over the strap. Sting realized, starts stabbing it into Vader's junk, let's say. Ouch.
His little Vaders.
Yes.
And then he is able to hit a bunch of punches on that after that, and even an enziguri. Mm-hmm. And then he clotheslines Vader knocks him to the floor, and lands a top rope splash twice. And then after all the lashes Sting has gotten over the last couple weeks, he pulls down Vader's straps and goes ham.
Yeah.
Like, he legitimately busts Vader's back open, and he's bloody.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to figure out that was actually blood. I thought it was just welts for a bit. But yeah,
It was welts at first.
But yeah, Vader does get cut open here.
Because the thing is, they always say this with a strap, like, when your skin starts getting sweaty and everything from the match, and it stings more when you get hit with that leather strap, and it's going to break you open. And then Race tries to get on the apron, Sting clocks him, and then Sting uses it to drive the strap, to drive Vader right into the ring post twice, really hard both times.
Yeah.
And then Sting tries something. I had never seen this idea in a strap match before, and it's actually kind of genius. That instead of going for the ring post on the inside, Sting is going for the post on the outside, because they're already, instead of trying to, I have it incapacitated on the outside, I have to bring him in the inside and do the post. He's going to keep him on the outside and drag him around the ring as he hits the post, and the refs still count. And I was like, I had never thought of this before.
Right. Yeah, that was a good thought.
Yeah, so he hits one post, and then body slams Vader on the concrete. He gets to the second post, but Vader drives him into the ring barriers, the ringside barriers, before he can get anyone past 2. Mm-hmm. So we're back to 0 with Sting. Sting goes back in. Is able to, remember, you gotta remember, Sting used to be a power lifter back in the day, so he's, especially back then, he was sneaky strong.
Yeah.
Was able to hit a Samoan drop on Vader after all this, after getting back in the ring.
Wow.
He goes for a Stinger Splash. Vader just meets him and just bodies him every time. Vader's going for his powerbomb finisher, but Sting is able to back body drop Vader. Sting goes for the top rope splash, but misses as Vader, he misses the top rope splash for the 3rd time. And Vader hits a standing splash, squashing poor Sting.
Mm-hmm.
Vader lands his own Samoan drop, then hits the Vader bomb, and then he starts whipping Sting with a strap. Like, this is a violent match.
Yeah, violent is a good word.
And then Vader is crushing Sting in the ring post, and then lands a second rope Samoan drop.
Yeah.
And then he starts going for the turnbuckles.
Yeah, he starts at the back ride, works his way counterclockwise.
Uh-huh. And he gets to 2 of them, but before he can get to the 3rd one, Sting stops him.
Right.
So we're back to 0.
Yeah, Vader goes for another second rope splash here. Sting evades.
Uh-huh. So Vader goes to the top rope, but Sting pulls on the strap, crotches Vader across the top rope, and then he pulls the strap again just to basically build him off of the top rope.
Yeah. That looked, again, a lot of this stuff looked really painful.
It did. Vader's able to fight back and actually lands a superplex on Sting. And Vader's actually able to get to 3 turnbuckles. Before you can get to the 4th one, Sting kind of just hooks the bottom rope like a koala. Vader can't go any farther. Breaks the count. And then you see Vader pushes Sting into the corner, starts pummeling him. Sting's busted open. Vader kind of pulls him in by the strap, but Sting lands one of those rolling capo kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just rolling kick him right to the face. And then he actually starts, but like the way I put it, he starts beating Vader near horizontal.
Yeah.
He pulls off the mask, is beating Vader near horizontal. Vader's busted open by the ear.
Yeah.
Vader's covered in blood. And then Sting actually puts Vader on his shoulders.
He's going for the win at this point.
Yeah, like Vader, like the fact that he's putting Vader on his shoulders and walking with him.
Yeah, unfortunately for Sting, the ref got knocked away by Vader's foot, but the ref is not counting.
Yeah, so Sting gets to the 3rd buckle, and he just steps away from getting to the 4th one, but he trips over the ref. So Vader is covered in blood, and he decides he's going to tie the strap to Sting's foot. And he gets to the 3rd buckle, but Sting tries to stop him. So when he's pulling on Sting, Sting kicks him, and then when Vader falls back, he taps the 4th turnbuckle, and he basically wins by the skin of his teeth.
And that was a 20-minute, 55-second match of holy freaking crap.
Oh my god. This is how you can have, like I said, 1A, 1B between this and then Scorpio Benoit.
Agreed.
And this shows, like, I'm not the biggest, when it comes to wrestling, I'm not the biggest super ultra-violent fan, like the light tubes, gusset boards, staple gun, like, not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have multiple, like, if it makes sense, makes sense in a match and you want to have a street fight or a death match, cool, it makes sense, great, I'm for it.
Right.
This shows, like, at least with art, and once again, all our opinions on the good matches. But you can have 2 wildly different styles of matches. Just as good, but style-wise are completely different. Because you had the technical match that Scorpio and Benoit had versus just the sheer brutality that the strap match had. And they were both just as good.
Yeah, the strap match was carnage.
Yeah. But like I said, it would probably have to be 1A, 1B for me between the main event and then Benoit Scorpio.
I'm going to agree with you on that. Close 1C would be the tag match between the Rock'n'Roll Express and the Heavenly Bodies.
Yeah, I guess, but my favorite match is basically a tie between this.
Right.
Eric is there with Barry Windham with his TV title, or his NWA World title. Barry says basically he's going, I don't care whose title it is or who holds a title anywhere, he's coming for the title. And then we just end the show, Jesse and Tony give him the closing remarks, and the show is over.
I would give the show, on whole, a B+.
I would say about a B. Like, the one match I would say I didn't like was the Barry Windham Great Muta.
Yeah, that was definitely the weakest link.
But all the other ones, I was like, I had no real severe problems. Like, they all did their, like, we had a good mix with, we had a good debut. Both tag matches weren't too awful bad. Benoit and Scorpio, like I said, was probably close to match of the night. Cactus Jack and Paul Orndorff was brutal too, just not on the level of Sting and Vader, but that was a brutal match, but it was still good. The Max Payne, Dustin Rhodes, even with the DQ finish, was actually not a bad match.
It wasn't. I was surprised by that.
Overall, other than that one match, I would probably give it a solid B.
Mm-hmm.
Only because some of the pacing for some of the matches, they were kind of like very dense in the back end.
Right. Backloaded.
Yeah. So, once again, I would watch this again.
Yeah, I would too.
On my own time. Well, that does do it for SuperBrawl 3. Next week, we're doing a slightly change of our schedule just because real life got in the way for both of us and we weren't able to get near as much done on Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 1 as we thought we wanted to. So we're going to push that back a couple weeks. So we'll have that in about 3 weeks. But next week, I'm kind of excited about this. I have not seen this as of yet. And this is one of those where it's like, for people like me with my nerd card, my horror card, this, that, and the other. This should be one of the movies that, we're taking your card away for not watching this.
Right.
We are watching something that's both a Christmas movie and a Halloween movie, which I see him watching both times of the year. The Disney classic, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I also have not seen this one, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
So we're going to watch that next week, and in 2 weeks on episode 15, we're looking at Monday Night Raw of February 22nd and WCW Saturday Night of February 27th. We're doing the Fallout of SuperBrawl 3. We're basically going to close out February with that, and then after that, we're going to be showing, we are going to get to Star Trek Deep Space Nine after that. And then I have other stuff in the works. We may or may not, depending on what happens, have a guest in about a month and a half.
Looking forward to seeing what we can pull up.
Yep, so you can get the podcast on Twitter at capital D and capital A Podcast 1. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Good Pods. And, and then if there's anywhere else you want us to be at, let us know. We'll see what we can do. I am on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, barely, Hover, and most other social media places at Xander Invictus.
And I'm on most of the same socials at Big Bocked.
All right, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out, and we will see you for the next episode of Dropkicks and Attractions.
Take care.